Hey everybody, Dave here. Dave Tries to Fix Stuff, channel dedicated to the repair, restoration, and resurrection of broken stuff. Today's episode we are going to be looking at this Teisco or Teisco, however you want to pronounce it. A solid state Checkmate 10 amplifier, guitar amplifier. I got this in, goodness, I don't know, months ago. For like $10 off of Craigslist. Doesn't work, but I thought it was a really cool little old school 70s style, late 60s, early 70s style amplifier. And I figured if I couldn't get it working, maybe I could gut it and put in like a little series filament amp in here, which might be what I do. But we are going to look at it today. We're going to see if we can get the transistors tested. We're going to see if we can get any sound to come out of it, if the sound is shit or if it is actually decent. If it is shit, I may put a tube amp in it anyway, who knows. But you can see, just by, it's a tiny little thing. It's cool, and it's light as all hell. This thing weighs maybe not even 5 pounds, maybe 5 pounds. Because it doesn't have any, I don't even think it has any real transformer in it, but it might. I'm not sure. I haven't really taken a good look at it yet. But anyway, if you want to see if I can fix it or if I fail miserably, stick around and we'll find out together. Alright, so as you can see, at the back of it here, it has it's had a couple of mishaps maybe. It's missing some screws in the back, which I'm sure we can find some placements. It does have, I don't know how well you can see this, but it does still have the tag there, the model CM10. It's got the serial number on there, made in Japan. So we got this part here. Nice 2-prong cord. It's always nice. Oh, it's got a nice little, it's got the schematic there. Didn't know it would have that. I was actually looking all over the place for one of these things, and I found one that was really tough to read. This one's not quite as bad. Ooh, and under my magnifying glass that I have here, it's actually pretty easy to read. 2SB175. There's 2 transistors in here. There's probably, look at these transistors. I wonder if these are going to be difficult to find. I'm going to bet that they are. I have 2 2SB175 transistors and 2 2SB324 transistors. I've got 2 different transformers showing on here. 1 selenium diode, which probably is not going to give us very much rectification. Probably, ooh, this is nice and dirty in here too. I don't know if you can see all that. Let's see in this thing. Boy, I should probably start recording with this. This seems to have a much better picture, but you can see it's got all kinds of fun stuff in here. Nasty. It's going to have to be cleaned out real good. But I'm going to have to pull that guy out, and we're going to have to do some repair on the cabinet. It's a wooden cabinet, which is nice. Looks like it's made of some plywood. Baffle is made with plywood as well. Nice little, what is that, like a 5-inch speaker maybe? 5 or 6-inch speaker. Let's look at the code on this. HRL160B EAS 16P75S. It's 8 ohms, 2.5 watts. So you're not getting too much out of this, and I don't think there's going to be that much output on this regardless. But it's cool that this is cool. I'll have to check the continuity on that, make sure that thing still works. Let's start getting this thing taken apart and getting that chassis out of there, and we can. Well, you know what? First, what we'll do is we'll actually set up and we'll see if we are getting any sound out of it. Because I tried it before and it didn't even sound like it was getting any juice at all. It just seemed like it was dead. But we'll hook it up and bring it up on the Variac and see if we can get any sound out of it. Let's try that first. The pot's making noise. Our volume pot is. And I'm getting that. But my guitar is plugged in and it's not, there's no output. So this thing's completely losing signal at some point. So, but seeing how this is responding to the volume, that's telling me that something's going on. There is signal between the volume pot and the transistors and the output to this thing going to the speaker, because it's registering, the volume's registering on it. I mean, the pot needs to be cleaned, but I'm getting a buzz that's loud when it's turned up all the way. I'm getting a weird buzz. So I'm thinking if there is any problem on this, it might be with one of the first transistors on here. So hopefully that's good news. But let's let me get this thing. That needs to be. Well, maybe that's. Let's try this other one too. Let's see what we get. Here's some kind of buzz in there. So with this plugged into the first input, I'm getting that little buzz right there when I have it turned up to a certain amount. And it's plugged in the other one. I'm not getting much of anything. So. All right. Well, let's put this off here. Let's. I guess we'll get this out of here. And so much shit here. I need to do another cleanup on this place. We'll take this thing out of here and see what we can find. So let me get this chassis removed, and we will be right back. All right. So we got the chassis out, and it's filthy on here. I don't know if they spilled something on this or what. Oh shit! I didn't realize I did that. It kind of, the front plate is like a really thin sheet of metal. It bent a little bit when I took it out. So, I mean, nothing bad. It went right back into place. But I need to be more careful when I do shit like that. But okay, so I'm looking at it. It's got some capacitors in here that will more than likely need to be cleaned up. So if you're looking at this, you can see we've got, I'm trying to do this with holding everything with one hand so I can point with the other one. We've obviously got some capacitors in here that will be highly suspect. I don't know if those are really, those all look like they're filter caps of some sort or another, and I don't think that those would really have anything to do with not getting any sound. But you've got a couple of transistors right here. These look like little geranium transistors. I'll have to look the numbers up on those that I saw and see what they are. And then over here, I think these are your main transistors because they are obviously wrapped in this metal band and then put on this thing, so it's a heat sink, so it's there to dissipate some heat. You've got your main transformer over here, it looks like, and then this is probably the little output transformer that's running from this. I'll have to remove these two screws and lift this thing up to see what's going on underneath, to see how all this is put together. But you've got your main electrical coming in, going into here into the switch on the back of the volume button, or the volume pot, which then brings it over here to this, this is probably a 120 volt neon light. That's my guess. And then this is the other end that comes in there. And then these two wires, sorry, I apologize. So this, my camera work sucks. I'm trying to see through both the camera and see where I'm pointing. But so you've got this wire comes from the switch over here to the neon light. Then this other end, this black wire here, actually is what follows back around and goes back out on the cord. So that completes your circuit, your loop on that for the power. But in parallel with that, you've got these two, this one and this one here, going to your transformer, getting the 120 volts, and then I'm not sure what we'd have out here. I'm gonna have to test and see what kind of voltage I have out here. But on top of looking at that, we are definitely gonna have to clean pots. We're gonna have to clean these things, and that, you know, who knows, maybe some of that might help with getting some signal. But if it doesn't, then we'll start looking at all the little components and stuff on the board and these guys and see what happens. So let me get some of these taken off here and we'll see what we're looking at. So I'm in the middle of taking this thing apart, and I'm realizing that I don't think this thing has ever been taken apart or serviced, ever. I mean, what's cool about it is that it's still got the film that, you know, they put that whenever they have a finished thing like this, they'll put a film over it to protect it. And get this back a little bit better. And the film's still on here. So, I mean, not only has it never been serviced, I mean, this thing is, I think it's just been sitting. Like somebody got it, they never played it, they probably just put it in the corner. And something obviously fell on it, which is why this piece needs to be, or it fell on something else. Oh, excuse me, I got hiccups. Which is why it needs to be fixed. But, you know, fixing this is not going to be tough. I mean, both sides, I'll need to pop it out, clean it off real good. I can screw it back on and then just restaple it. I mean, literally, it'll take me 10 minutes to get it done. But this, I think, I mean, even if I can get this thing just working as a solid state amp, even if it doesn't sound all that great, it doesn't have a great tone, it'll still be pretty cool to see this thing, you know, and get this thing going again, you know, like kind of in its original state. So as you can see, this hole here and this hole here don't have the screws in. They put these little screws right here, we're holding those in. But on this one and this one, it's got these little bolts sticking up with the nuts in them that I imagine are, you know, obviously coming in from the other side of the baffle. I'm wondering if they somehow broke off or just came undone, and they utilized those screws as a means of keeping it in here. So whatever that was, we will try to find a way to fix that and make sure that that goes back together properly. In the meantime, another good thing, yep, that's good. They, I went to undo the nut off of this thing, and both these nuts that were on here were basically pretty much hand tight, which is good. You don't want to, a lot of people when they put these speakers in like this, they'll put the speakers in and they'll wrench down the nuts on them and, you know, try to get them as tight as they can. And you don't want to do that, because if you do that, it actually will warp the frame, the chassis on these things, and will end up making it to where the coil could theoretically kind of go a little off kilter, where it's not going straight up and down, and that'll cause coil rub, and it will eventually burn out your coil on this thing. Well, I decided to kind of start looking at this a little more closely, and I've discovered, I don't know if you can see this, but I had an entire lead from these one of these transistors had come loose. And I'm looking at these other ones, and I don't know if you can see that real well on the camera or not, but you should be able to. You can see these things are not even altogether soldered in correctly. So I'm going to go through this, and I'm going to reflow the solder all over this board and see if that might help to correct some of the situation. Because the fact that I can turn on the power to this thing, and the volume overall goes up and down. I'm not getting a signal to pass, but the volume, I can hear the buzz going up and down with the volume. So it's getting something right there. So I'm going to try to get these things situated as far as the solder on this done, and then we'll take it from there. Alrighty, well, I got some sound out of it finally. There was a lot of shit I had to do. Let's see if I can go through this without electrocuting myself. Actually have power going through this right now. First thing I did was I went in and I reconnected all these wires, all these leads coming from the transistors. These oh goodness, my brain's not working today. Sorry, it's been a long day. Geranium transistors here. They everything was kind of coming apart on the other side. I went in to reflow the solder. Still was kind of getting a lot of noise on this, at which point I figured, you know, I should probably, these filter caps right here, I should probably replace, which those are, God, I have a mess over here, but let's see if I can, I just ended up deciding to shotgun all of the electrolytic capacitors that I came across. Just I had them. I figured, what the hell, you know, let's so I'm not having to continually, you know, undo the things and take the board off and all that. But I got those replaced. Got everything back over here. Got a guitar plugged in. Let's turn it up a little bit here. You can hear there is some hum that may, you know, I'm not gonna do anything with it, but I got the guitar hooked up, so we got sound coming through here, and that speaker does not sound like it's blown. It sounds decent. So at this point, I'm going to say that this thing, although is not loud at all, you're not going to be busting any windows out. That's cranked right there. So, but you know, this isn't meant to be a cranked thing. Yeah, this thing needs some grounding. So what I still have left to do is I need to remove this power cord and put in a grounded power cord. I'm going to have to replace this 100K resistor that broke, so I can get the neon bulb back in there and work him. Then the electronics part of this thing will be done. Then I need to turn my focus to the cabinet and getting the pieces glued back on here and all that, get everything cleaned up. I'll take it all apart, get it, you know, glued together, get all the tolex glued back on, and it will be ready to demo and then hopefully sell. Like I said, I don't expect to get a whole lot of money for it, but you know, whatever it does sell for, it's, I didn't have to put, luckily the cost of these capacitors right here is all I ended up having to put into it, which, you know, those were probably 50 cents, maybe $1 worth of capacitors here, if that. So I've got about $11 invested in this thing, so anything I can get for it is, hey, money in my pocket. But let me I'm gonna, you know, tonight it's starting to get late right now, so I'm not gonna have time to run to Lowe's. I think it's already past 9, I think. I mean, getting late for me, I'm an old man. But I think they close at 9, so I'm not gonna have time to go pick up a new power cord for this. So I'll pick that up tomorrow after work. I'll get everything changed out and start getting everything put back together. But I will call this one a success. I didn't have to gut anything. I got everything working correctly, so I'm pretty happy. But we'll see what happens next. Alright, stick around. Okay, so I got everything on the board put back together. I replaced the 100K resistor right here that's in series with the neon bulb. I put a 3-prong cord in here. Got the hot side hooked up to this. I will say that I still may end up taking this transistor out of circuit and testing it, because the more I was thinking about it, the more I realized that this one had a lead that wasn't hooked up, that had come loose from its solder joint, and I put that back in. And when that wasn't hooked up, I don't know if it was that or if it was a combination of that and a couple other things, because I fixed and replaced a bunch of parts at the same time, but there was no sound before that. And now that I got all the stuff put back together, now I'm getting signal and sound coming out of the speaker. So I don't know if maybe it was because everything was messed up on this, or if it's because I had to replace this, or I got this transistor hooked back up and it's working and this one is not. Because even with that one in place, I still wasn't getting any noise or getting any signal. So I may take that one out and actually test that to verify. Because if that's bad, this is a really quiet amp as it is, and I'm wondering if the reason it seems as quiet as it does at this point is because only one transistor is working. So I may look at that as well. But either way, I got all that put back together. The next thing I need to concentrate on right now is, I don't know if this is something that I did, which is possible because I was cleaning all this stuff off real good, or if it was something that was already existing. But right here, so you can zoom in on that, there's a little hole in the cone. It looks like all the material is there. It's just been pushed through you can kind of see right there, and there's a little material on the back too. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get some contact cement and utilizing a method that I learned from another YouTube channel on here, Uncle Doug. If you get a chance to check him out, definitely check out Uncle Doug. He knows his stuff. He likes to dope the edges of his vintage speakers like this with contact cement, and it helps to give a little longevity to the speaker cone that's in there. So, but I think if I use some contact cement to do all this, I can probably get that pushed back into place and sealed, and then this should be a fine speaker for a little while longer anyway. But I'm going to work on that, and then once I'm done with that, I have to go finish up with the cabinet, which will be probably the most difficult part about this whole project, because I'm going to end up having to put the tolex back on. So anyway, I'm going to go work on that stuff, and I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm taking the tolex here, and I'm separating it just a little bit, which I wouldn't normally do, but because, I mean, you can see on this thing in some places, I mean, this tolex is like really curled, and that's because it went down here, and then this this piece here, which is meant for the back to screw to. It's the supports for the back panel. This actually comes up and gets glued to part of that and glues around there. Anyway, so what I need to do though is I need room. I need room to work with this a little bit. So I'm peeling this down just a touch, and then I'm going to come back here. Peel that back a little bit. And I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to match up the holes with the staples, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bead of glue down, all the way down here throughout this whole thing here, and then put these staples back into their respective holes, and then just tap the thing in, and that one doesn't really have one. Then tap the thing in, and I'm going to put a clamp on it. And the glue, the staples are, I mean, in all honesty, the staples aren't even going to do much for it. The glue is going to hold it in place very well, much better than any staple could. I don't think this was actually glued to begin with, and it came out pretty easily. So so right now it's just a matter of trying to get these things lined back up so I can push it down in without any grief. So, alright, so we've got everything put back together here. Obviously it's a lot cleaner than it was. I don't know if it's really easy to tell on the camera or not, but we've got everything cleaned up around the outside of it. I mean, it was pretty nasty dirty. I mean, you can see that you've got all that good stuff there. It's got a little, it's little nicks and scratches and everything and all over the place. But I got the rear of it fixed up. I know that was something that I showed earlier, was all the tolex had been curling off and was kind of sticking out. The support pieces were broken off. I got those glued and stapled back on. I got some contact cement and got the tolex here all put back down and in place. Found some new screws. These two were the originals, not that it matters, but got some other ones to put in there. Took everything off of this thing, cleaned it up, removed as much gook and rust and nastiness as I could. I think I figured out too why it wasn't getting sound. This is kind of weird. When I got this stuff cleaned off, I took all the pieces off and actually cleaned the chassis real good. And there was a fair amount of muck, but it's covered in muck filth, and I got that all cleaned up, and I'm wondering if maybe there wasn't a good ground connection on these inputs. Because that seems to me to be a solid reason as to why this thing wouldn't have gone in. Because when I first tried to actually test this thing with these out of it, that's when I realized that there was no ground connection directly from the jacks, from the soldering posts on these jacks to the rest of the circuit. So it was getting its ground from the chassis, and that might have been why I was getting zero sound from it. But I got everything out, got everything tested on the second transistor and all that, and everything works. So it's doing good. But we'll switch it on now, and you'll hear a little bit. If the camera picks it up, you should hear a little bit of hum when it first comes on, even with everything down, with the sound down. And then as we turn it up, you'll definitely hear some difference in the hum that's inherent in an amplifier like this. But I don't know if that's altogether audible or not, but it is there. When you hear it in person, you are going to hear it, but it's so low, it really not a big deal. But you can hear the hiss. I mean, again, this isn't anything that's not inherent on practically every guitar amp in the world, and what you're hearing there is when it's cranked. So difference between this and that. So that's when it's cranked. But you'll hear, I got my Frankencaster here, and obviously it's not loud. It's not meant to be loud. Again, the speaker in this is a 2.5 watt speaker, so I'm guessing there can't be more than 1.5, 2 watts output on this thing. So it's not going to be a loud amp, but it does have a nice sweet tone to it that will be really good for nice cleans like that. You hear the tone, you hear the difference in the tone. That's all on a single coil. So my pickups on this thing are out of phase, so if I put it on the one between the middle and the bridge, it's kind of like a humbucker in a way. But even with the tone all the way up, that's still pretty creamy. Back on the single coil. That's when, on a single coil, I back it off to a little past 12 o'clock. Practice with my guitar playing. Sloppy as always, but it does give you a good idea of how it sounds. It does have just a touch of grit. wouldn't say grit, just a little bit, you know, as it's just pushing into overdrive, just barely when you really hit it. You know, when it's cranked and you hit it. But, you know, there are some great times, you know, a lot of times when somebody's going to want that as their sound. So, but yeah, this thing will be heading on to eBay now. Yeah, that's really all there is to say about it. So, I do want to thank everybody for watching the video. If you like what you saw, make sure you subscribe, click like. I'm still trying to put these out as often as possible. And hopefully we will see each other again soon. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.